Good morning. This is not the beach, so you can wake up. Well, again, thanks for having us, and again, thank you, Frederick and others for Charge for inviting us. We're going to have a good conversation here with Ruth Forbes, the CEO of Fortis TCI. Before we do that, I just want to set the scene for our conversation here. We've heard a lot the last 48 hours about branding. We've heard a lot about emotions. We've heard a lot about boldness. The last panel covered a lot of topics. So we're going to try to hear with Ruth, first have her tell us a little bit about Turk and Caicos and make us to get there emotionally, even though we're not there physically. And think about yourself being on a beautiful beach. So we're going to have this sort of a beach-style conversation. Ruth will start, and then we'll just get into some conversations around branding. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Fortis TCI, but tell us first about Turk and Caicos as an island.
Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you to the organizers of this conference for being here. It has been an insightful and riveting conference thus far, and I really appreciate. I can't wait to go back home, actually, to share lots of insights that I have gotten throughout the last day and a half. So, about the Turks and Caicos Islands, it was one of the best kept secrets until a couple of years ago. We are located about southeast of the Bahamas. We are a group of 40 islands and keys, 8 of which are inhabited. Our main industry is tourism. We have a lot of, our main tourist base comes from the United States, as well as the European market is now building up some traction towards the Turks and Caicos as well. We are as respect to Fortis TCI, we are a wholly owned subsidiary of Fortis Inc. Fortis Inc. is headquartered out of Newfoundland Power, Newfoundland, Canada. And Fortis would have purchased the company back in 2006 and would have done a lot of work around branding, as Dr. Jones would get into soon. Also, a lot of work has been done around branding as well. But as relates to Fortis TCI, we are a vertically integrated utility. We have about 16,000 customers, 155 employees, and we serve the service territory through 4 independent power grids. So we are a group of islands, but we have several plants across the service territory that allows us to power the Turks and Caicos Islands.
So let's get into branding. So, when I got this sort of a description, I've known you for many years, and about this session, I was intrigued by one of the things they wrote was that you're on a mission to transform energy. So when you're transforming energy, how do you preserve your brand?
Well, that's a good question, Dr. Lawrence. The brand, preservation of the brand, I believe, the brand has to grow with the transformation. There will be times and point and place when the brand, in my mind, from Fortis Turks and Caicos standpoint, we also have to transform our brand. Let me take that back there. Mm-hmm. The brand also has to be transformed because it's a different space that we're moving in. It's new. The whole transformation process is new for our customers, it's new for our employees, it's new for our stakeholders. So the brand has to pivot as well to recognize that what worked in the past may not necessarily work along this transformation process. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we are doing in terms of branding is how do we humanize our operations? How do we humanize the company before, a big part of our brand, we put out there the poles, the wires, and, the traditional stuff. Mm-hmm. But we have to come to a point, and we are pivoting to a point where we have to make those connections, those authentic connections with our customers, find out, what the customers really want, mm-hmm. and just really bring them along on the journey. So the brand has to pivot mm-hmm. as well with the transformation. Good
suggestion. So the first message here is that brands have to evolve. It's not static, right? Because many people think the brand is static, but it's not. It has mm-hmm. to evolve. Now, you're part of a bigger organization, right? You're part of Fortis Inc., a multinational organization with companies in different countries, so to speak. Talk about how that challenges the brand proposition for you, because something can happen global brand that affects the local brand. So how does a company that is part of a global organization deal with that challenge of brand balancing, so to speak?
Thank you for that question. So Fortis Inc. adopts a business model that allows the utilities on the ground to run their own shop, so to speak. So our brand, while we're connected to the Fortis Inc. brand, we have similarities in our values and how our purpose, our mission. Our brand also has to be localized.
Good.
For the environment in which it serves. So a lot of the initiatives that Forbes Inc. Puts forward from a branding perspective, we are allowed to take that and make it our own in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So it's having that perspective as well, that it's not a one fit all scenario, that branding perspective that should be taken.
Yeah.
But for the Fortis brand itself, having the Fortis brand in the Turks and Caicos Islands was a major for the Turks and Caicos Islands, being a small island state and having a multi global organization like Fortis Inc. to be a part of that, to be aligned with that. It tremendously helped from an investor standpoint in terms of bringing inward investments into the Turks and Caicos Islands. Yeah. So it's really which point you want to take it from?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So I was thinking about the whole idea around a small island a country with many islands, and electricity is so critical. And talk about how the electricity sector can be used as a magnet to attract not just investors but tourists, because one of the reasons tourism come to islands because of lack of electricity. So how does the brand of Fortis TCI actually serve as a magnet for attracting tourists to the island?
It has added incredible value to the Turks and Caicos Islands tourism product and investment product. Investors usually, we usually get calls from investors asking, what is your system like? How much backup capacity would I need? And that would be a major point in their decision on whether or not to invest. We are a high-end tourism destination in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Nightly rates can range anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 or more.
So I'm not going to be going there anytime soon.
So you don't want to be paying that type of money and your lights go off.
Yes.
So we take that very seriously. Reliability is a huge part of our brand. We aligned ourselves with North American standards, and we are one of the leading in the Caribbean in terms of reliability. So having the Fortis brand in the Turks and Caicos Islands, it brings significant value to our overall economic development as well as our tourism product in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
During the last panel, the speaker from CPS Energy talked about what happens when the lights go off and had the little child there. Well, the Caribbean is known for hurricanes. Talk about how that restoration process has strengthened your brand. You've been recognized in the Caribbean and in North America for restoring power very quickly after hurricanes. How does that system restoration work strengthen the brand?
It adds significant value to our brand. In 2017, we saw that full circle, where we were hit with storms Irma and Maria, Category 5 Irma and Maria, and our electrical infrastructure, took quite a hit across the islands. But because of being a part of the Fortis family and the Fortis brand, there was confidence that we will do this quickly, we will do it safe, and we will essentially save the Turks and Caicos Islands, the economy, because the tourism season, the storm hit in September, and the tourist season would have started in November. So we had a very short space of time to restore power. And being connected with the Fortis brand, it allowed us to have access to mutual assistance groups. We had access to the trucks, the resources that we need, human capital, expertise from any part of the operations, and that allowed us to restore power within 60 days. And we also won, and as Dr. Lawrence said, we won a restoration award for that. But what that did to the economy of the Turks and Caicos Islands, essentially put us ahead of some of the other regions that were hit with the same storm, because we were able to get that restoration done very quickly. So there's a lot of confidence when it comes to storm restoration, business continuity, and resiliency. There's a lot of confidence that's placed on our brand, and rightly so.
So in the last session, Frederick asked a question that prompted me to change some of my questions I had for you. So this is not one you thought about before. He asked a question about love. He said, and Frederick always brings love into these conversations if you haven't listened to him before. So he asked the question, can a utility be loved? Talk about how you've been able to generate love, if you may, from the community, because you do a lot of work in the community. How important is community outreach in terms of building the love or getting the love from your customers?
Community outreach is extremely important. Community actually is also one of our values. So we have a number of community initiatives. Our social program focuses on the youth. Anything youth, anything education, anything culture, Forbes is there. We have a number of stable programs. We sponsor a youth league, a youth football league, and we have that throughout the islands. We also engage heavily in STEM-related initiatives. We host the National Science Fair. We host the National Science Debate. And we also sponsor a number of initiatives and organizations within the STEM category. So we get to the heart of it. Everyone loves the children, right? Everyone loves kids. Everyone loves the young people. So we love them too. We genuinely love them because we see that as important for succession, and a succession of the organization, as well as continued succession of the Turks and Caicos Islands. So we invest heavily in our youth, and that has been one of the main brand connectors for us at Forbes TCI, how we invest in our youth, whether it's through the apprenticeship programs, whether it's through our scholarship program that we have, or whether it's through some of our stable youth focus initiatives. So that has served as adding tremendous brand value for us in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
So I have two more questions to end our little island conversation before we go and have some tequila or whatever we're going to drink, pina colada. But let me just pause for 1 second. Is there any question from the audience for Ruth? It could be about tourism. It could be about branding. Any questions? Okay, none? All right, so they just want to get to the beach now.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you two quick questions.
Should have had a picture up there with the beach.
I know. Yeah. So we've heard a lot about branding this week or the last 2 days, and I just want to ask a question about how does the role of the CEO impact the brand of the company? And I ask that because I see the work you do in the community, but just talk to the audience about how important it is for the leader of a company and how their brand can negatively or positively impact the company.
That's a really good question. I actually believe that the CEO is the brand, the leader is the brand of the organization and should reflect everything about the brand, should carry and live the values of the brand. So that is important, which means that we have to lead by example. We have to ensure that authentic connection is made throughout the organization and also throughout the community. We have to focus on relationships, brand that's important for our brand as well. So the CEO has there's a saying that says everything leadership, it rises and falls on leadership, and it's the same thing for branding. The CEO has to carry that vision as well of the brand and has to be able to adequately articulate it in a passionate way to the employees first and foremost, because they are the ones who will be brand ambassadors first and foremost. So the CEO has to be able to energize the troops from within and really set a clear vision for the brand of an organization.
Well, look, we're going to wrap it up here. Let me just ask a quick question. So this is your first Charge event, and I must give you one warning that Charge is an addiction. When you go to one Charge, you end up going to all the Charges, right? And the next one is going to be in Berlin if you're planning on going there. But how has this week been, the last 2 days? What are some of the key takeaways you have gathered from this conference, being your first, and the fact that you left Turk and Caicos and flew all the way to Florida, to Texas? This must be a priority for you. So what has been the feedback you've gotten so far from the last 48 hours?
Thank you for that, Dr. Lawrence. I think Charge has reassured me that I'm on the right track when it comes to our branding conversation, when it comes to our customer experience, our employee experience, and why, this needs to take, this conversation, the branding conversation needs to take top priority in an organization and needs to be visible in an organization. So it has, the conference has really reassured me that I'm aligned with, what's important for this transition, what is necessary for the success of the energy transition that we're in. And it also has shown me that, I'm not alone. There are others who are having the same issues and the same challenges. The speaker before me, she spoke about purpose. She spoke about employee experience and getting it done from within. Those are some of the same conversations that I've been having as well internally. And there was a speaker from yesterday, I can't remember her name, where that's you right there. She talked about, simplifying things. How do you simplify the message? And that has been one of our focus as well. How do we simplify our message that people can really understand, that customers can really understand what we are about, and to really make an authentic connection with the brand and with the people of the organization, because it's not just Fortis. There are people, individuals behind the Fortis brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, Ruth, it's been a pleasure. I've known you for many years, and for full disclosure, I've been to Turk and Caicos, so I'm kind of an ambassador here. But let's just wrap up with one quick personal question. And this is sort of trying to bring you to 2030. By the year 2030, if we do this energy transition right, what would you want us to remember about Fortis TCI's brand by the year 2030? What are the things that will shape your brand when we get to this clean energy transition where we're headed? What would be 2 words or 2 things you think we should already imagine about Fortis TCI by the year 2030 from a brand perspective?
From a brand perspective, one of the words that I would like to be associated with our transition legacy is care.
Care.
How do we do this in a caring way for our customers, for our employees, and for the environment? And how do we strike the right balance? So care is definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. And the last one is affordability, which is very dear to our customers. And the Turks and Caicos is in a unique situation because of some of the unique characteristics of where we are. We have a very high cost of electricity. So being able to look back and see how we were intentional about driving down the cost of energy and what does it mean for our customers, and what does it mean for the economy of the Turks and Caicos Islands. So really affordability and care.
Well, thank you so much for being a caring and affordable utility. Thank you for joining us. Please, a hand and applaud